Skipping forward to the next day, we gathered at the appointed time. Haha, Adalmann's floor has been remade to perfection. Rimuru proudly reported as soon as she saw me. Looked like she had finished preparing the throne room last night. Thanks. Now Adalmann can actually hold his ground. Is it really okay? At least he would perform better than yesterday, and the days before that. However, he may still have a hard time against rank A opponents, but he should be able to force his opponent into revealing all their cards. If Adalmann were to be persistent in his pursuit, surely the enemies would be forced to show their true strength. If that were to be the case, it would be time for Raphael-san to shine. It would analyze the combat record and figure out a strategy for me. All we needed to do was to apply said strategy on the next floor. Therefore, even if Adalmann lost, it wouldn't be an issue. However, depending on how well our next operation works out, not only Adalmann, even Gozer and Mezer, may not have a chance to demonstrate their prowess. It was better if we had multiple strategies. And so, we had to put them into action immediately. What the heck have you all been doing? I've heard the news. Did someone beat my dragons? Trouble had arrived. Milim burst into the meeting room as she roared in a furious tone. She was dragging Gopta along in one hand like a rag. Despite getting scraped across the floor, he was still breathing. Haha, I did it. I made it through. Gopta was babbling something incoherent, but he did seem to be conscious. He probably got whipped into shape pretty hard by Milim and was utterly exhausted. In spite of this, he didn't look any stronger. Although, he did look like he'd been through hell. Was he alright? Ignoring my concern, Milim nodded heavily. Yeah. Gopta was great. I didn't expect him to survive hell mode. She praised Gopta with a satisfied look on her face. For Milim, of all people, to be praising him, said a lot. Surely, Gopta had achieved some goals. Then I shall teach you the Valdora-style killing arts as well. No way. Gopta is my disciple. Completely disregarding an exhausted Gopta laying on the ground, Valdora and Milim began to argue with one another. I'm not getting involved in this mess. Let's see what fate had in store for Gopta. In any case, it's great that he has come back in one piece. I really need to reward him handsomely later. The best thing for him now was to get some good rest. Upon hearing my suggestion, Gopta immediately headed to the lounge for a nap. Ranga also made it back. Mom master, I have returned, Ranga said, evidently exhausted. He stumbled as he slowly made his way over to me. Ranga's body was covered in scars just like Gopta. Their special training was clearly very intense. Ranga closed his eyes and was overjoyed while I pet his head absent-mindedly. You worked hard, now rest up in my shadow. Before I could say another word, Ranga dove into my shadow. Something off topic. Later, once Gopta had recovered, I asked him how their training went, and he told me that it was mostly combat practice. Milim found monsters equal to or stronger than them to brawl with. Fight, repeat, and repeat some more. After Gopta had mastered communicating with Ranga, they proceeded to fight carrion and mid-leaf from dusk till dawn. Milim had told Gopta, no matter how hard you try, you can't increase the amount of magicule you have. But rest assured, you can work around this with your ability to unite with Ranga. It'll be your job to utilize this immense strength wisely later on. All you need to do is practice your skills, leave the task of increasing magicule to Ranga. And after that, I have been receiving special training to practice my battle sense. Gopta said with a smile. He also obtained extra skill Sage, which had the ability to accelerate his thought processing. This guy's going places. Well then, since Milim had come, that proved to make things significantly easier from here on out. I had been busy making preparations after I bid Adalmann farewell last night. And, as it turned out, I managed to finish it on time. I took out the items I had just completed. Valdora, Rimuru, Milim, all three of them were transfixed by the items in my hands, gazing at them with intrigue. Everyone, check this out. I have some special items here. I've been working on it for a while, and it's gonna be revolutionary. It'll help resolve all the problems in the labyrinth, and introduce a whole new level of fun into our lives. As I finished, I handed each of them one of the items. I didn't expect Milim to come today, but in truth, I was going to call her when this item was put to practice. So, it all worked out. I had already prepared one for Milim. I was inspired by the homunculus used by Duke Allude in the past. Since we could replace our bodies temporarily, this opened the door for many fun opportunities. What is this? I've never seen this before. Can you eat it? In my opinion, this is something similar to a soul container. The three expressed their views. Give up already, Rimuru, you can't eat this. Does she think that everything I prepare is food? Oh well, never mind. Valdora's answer was the closest. It was indeed something made to emulate a soul container. The moment that you transferred your consciousness into the body of a homunculus, you would need to cast special magic techniques in order to establish a connection to the soul. I ran an analyze and assess on the process and modified it myself. It was the same container I gave Trainee-san, the container for the Chaos Core. I officially named it Emulated Soul. Vildor got the closest answer. This is an emulation of a soul container. I can't exactly recreate something like a soul, so I decided to settle for the next best thing. Oh, so how did you make something like that? Vildor seemed very pleased to learn that his answer was the closest and asked me rather smugly. There was no need to hold back now, so I might as well just explain it. But before that, I'd be a little dramatic. After all, it took me a lot of time and effort to make these, surely, I could shock them a little bit. Hold your horses, I will explain in detail. But first, take a look at this. Hold this in your hand and picture your favorite monster before your eyes. Apart from the emulated souls, I took out some black orbs and put one in everyone's hands. Vildor tilted his head while gazing intently at the fist-sized object in his hand. Anything I want. Yeah. Any monster that exists. Even the crazy rare type. Like a goblin or an orc. Can I even have a one-horned rabbit or a man-eating bear? Sure. But just remember to pick the ones you like. Don't complain about not liking it after you've decided. Monsters. Are we making monsters to defeat the Labyrinth challengers? That's how it is. They were as sharp as ever during times like these. Seemingly understanding my words, they began to draw the image in their minds. The black orb was a master core. In order to craft this, the magic core of Charybdis was instrumental. I isolated it in my stomach and had Raphael analyze it thoroughly. It was the core of a large monster and the source of its power. Before I became a demon lord, all of its negative energy seemed to have been consumed. That's why, in that moment, it was merely an empty shell. It therefore became the perfect medium for securely containing a soul. And that was. After some time, the magicule in the air gradually concentrated in the master cores and created monsters. All of them were the ideal forms imagined by Vildor, Milim, and Rammus. How about this, isn't it interesting? And just as Vildor said, let's take on the challengers using these monsters. That was the main reason why I gathered everyone here. Although that wasn't the only reason, no one pursued the matter. The trio were deeply moved after seeing the monsters they created. Ignoring the three of them, I also began to create my own monster. It was a floating soul that had a transparent body, a ghost. If we don't consider the stats, it possessed a special ability, physical nullification. Since it was a ghost, you couldn't exactly hit it physically. And in turn, because it also didn't possess any physical means to attack, you could only use magic attacks yourself. Next up, we have Vildor. I saw a skeleton standing there, a skeleton warrior. He wouldn't be able to use magic, but perhaps it could learn how to use it in the future. Once it evolved to be a more advanced species, it could probably learn Xia fighting as well. On the other hand, we have Milim. The creature had a damp, gooey body with no hands or feet, and its red color made it stand out. It was a slime. Hey. Oi, why did you make a slime? Are you trying to make fun of me? No way, it's because you wanted me to think of a monster I like. Why are you complaining? She turned the table against me instead. Never mind, since she seemed to be having fun. Her eyes were glowing as she shouted slime. I did want to ask why it was bright red. Last but not least, Rammus. Hold on, is it actually a set for more? It was animated armor. Even though it was a full plate set of armor, for some reason, it looked woefully shabby. However, among the four monsters we created, hers was the largest. My guess was that Rammus had an inferiority complex due to her small size. That's why she imagined a giant monster, to compensate. Yet at the end of the day, it was all looks and nothing behind it, very much Rammus's style. Everyone was gaping in awe at their monsters. But there were more surprises in store for them. Listen now, folks. As Vildor has said, we are going to use these monsters to beat the Labyrinth invaders. Invaders. Indeed. These monsters are guardians of the Labyrinth, after all. In that sense, wouldn't the people coming in be invaders? I see how it is. How, what is? Rammus, we are going to stand at the front line with the Labyrinth monsters. So, it would be inappropriate to still call them challengers. I get it, now that you've put it this way, it would indeed sound strange. Aha, I thought as much. Vildor explained in my stead to make Rammus realize what I meant. Then there was also Milim, who was pretending like she understood everything. I wasn't sure whether she grasped what was going, but I ought to continue the topic, nonetheless. Then, do you guys think it is possible to defeat the invaders using these monsters? No way, they're too weak. The armor I created looks really cool, but there's no way they can make it. Rimuru, I'm so disappointed in you. I've seen this coming a mile away. These monsters are an insult to my expectations. Haha, as I suspected, they started talking trash without a second thought. By the way, Rammus and Milim, why are you guys acting all smug? It's kinda pissing me off. But since I'm the bigger slime, I shall tolerate it for now. That's not all, just yet. What comes next is the real deal. Go take a seat and get comfortable. Then aim your emulated soul at your monster and shout possess. I saw a fair amount of skepticism in their faces, yet they still listened and sat down in a comfortable position. The chairs in the conference room were all very cozy and had exquisite cushioning. All at once, they shouted, "Possess." I shouted along with them, and not a moment later, the emulated soul in our hands began to glow and was absorbed by the monsters. It then began to merge with the Master Core. The possession of the Master Core was complete. And at the same time my consciousness faded. And soon after, the view in front of me changed. The effective range of my usual magic perception decreased sharply, making me feel that my field of view had suddenly become much smaller. By now I had simulated the 5 senses, so it felt much better than when I first reincarnated. However, unlike me, the other 3 had not experienced something like this in the past. I figured that they were going to have a hard time. With that in mind, I glanced around. From my reduced field of vision, I could see a skeleton warrior stretching and a slime moving at abnormal speeds. There was also a set of armor going through rigid motions, looking like some shoddy bootleg Tin Man. All 3 of them sporting their new appearances, each had successfully possessed the monsters they created. I could feel myself settling in. It felt more natural than I expected, as if I were just controlling my own body. But my abilities were greatly curbed, so moving around wasn't really smooth. Then again, once I got to know the ghost's movement, it became very easy to react to things. And soon enough I got to move as I pleased. It seemed to be no different for the other 3. "This is awesome," the trio shouted in sync, after spending some time to confirm the conditions of their new bodies. "Right. How do you like the result of me research?" "It's amazing, truly amazing, Rimuru." "Rimuru is awesome. I knew you weren't a simple guy." "I was right, after all. I knew I was right to place my confidence in you." These guys changed their tune on a dime. But seeing how happy they look, it's truly great. Looks like it was a success. What should we do now that we are transferred to these monsters? Don't need to spell it out for you guys now, do I? Kukuku, what a silly question. You didn't want to leave it up to the monsters and hope that we would duke it out ourselves. What an interesting idea you have, Rimuru. Indeed. I'm super pumped to start my own conquest of the labyrinth in this form, though. I know. I get it now, this is a game. What? Is this true, Bildor? Mentor? Then can we defeat enemies with this body? And perhaps make this body evolve as well? As expected from Bildor. He saw right through me. Yep, I was imitating an MMORPG, a massive multiplayer online role-playing game. Although, this wasn't exactly on a large scale, so I suppose it wasn't really an MMO, but more like a MMO. Never mind, that's not important. The important thing was that we wanted to have some fun in the labyrinth that we went through all the effort to build. That's the whole point. Haha, you sure know your stuff, Bildor. You saw right through me so easily. But don't get the wrong idea. I did develop this in order to enjoy playing this game, but don't we have other things to take care of before that? Gahaha, are you talking about that thing? So, are we supposed to use these bodies to take care of the challenger problem? No, to defend against the invaders. Looks like he got what I meant. Indeed, I plan to use the monster body monster avatar to sabotage the rapidly progressing Team Green Rebellion. Just like what Rammers said before, I was considering different ways we could have fun, like leveling up the bodies, and learning how to fight with these inconvenient bodies that had many limitations compared to our original ones. My true intention was for us to be able to get some fun out of defeating monsters and challengers. I never thought it would come in handy in this way. However, once we've done enough preparations, I plan to use it purely to experience the fun of challenging the labyrinth. I see, that way we can also try out our own labyrinth, right? That's exactly what I meant. Moreover, we can't really show our true strength using this monster avatar. That means we can alter our perspective and see what problems the labyrinth has. You're right. After all, if I were to confront the challengers in the field, my authority as the king of the labyrinth would come into question. If I were, however, to possess some fragile monster. Yes. No longer as a demon lord or true dragon, but as a monster that can unabashedly fight the invaders in the open. I get it, that sounds like fun. Milam chimed in, fully on board. Switching to a new, inconvenient body with all of its limitations probably felt fresh and exciting to her, seeing as she normally did as she pleased while flaunting her power. She seemed thrilled and intrigued by the concept. Then let's get to it. Before we start the game properly, let's clear out the trash and make the place pretty again. Time to show my moves off. I've been itching to test out my 48 Ultra Instinct kill moves. Although I'm not feeling myself in this, I'm still tempted to try things out. We set off, filled with motivation. Now it was up to us to take care of the troublesome Team Green Rebellion, and make them no longer capable of challenging the lower floors. In order to achieve this goal, I had come up with an even more devious plan.